All right, tonight we're going to talk about Enneagram 9, and because nines don't get enough spotlight, I feel like. Nines are those background people who make everything really, really awesome by just loving and keeping the peace and making sure that everyone feels connected and supported, and very similar to the twos in this way. So I'm actually going to head over to the Enneagram Institute and read about type 9, and then we're going to do a little bit of a panel, an interview style for some type 9s that we have in our team. And so, yeah, here we go. So the type 9 is all about peacemaking, and they're very easygoing, they're receptive, they're reassuring, they're agreeable. Now, a negative side to the 9, because we all have our negative sides, is sometimes they can become complacent. So in a place of stress where they're not doing well, they're going to go towards a 6, the tendencies of the negative sides of the 6, and when they're doing really well, they're going to go towards the positive sides of a 3. So their basic fear is of loss and separation, and their basic desire is to have an inner stability and a peace of mind. So when you think about a 9 in the business, and you're thinking about supporting a 9, or maybe you are a 9, and for me, I'm thinking of how to support a 9. If the basic fear is of loss and separation, that would be really important to be aware of. A loss of a potential member, a loss of a downline, a loss of a relationship, and the basic desire to have inner stability and peace of mind. That ties a lot with certainty. So, okay, let's go into the overview. We have them named the peacemaker because no type is more devoted to the quest for internal and external peace for themselves and others. They're typically spiritual seekers who have a great yearning for connection with the cosmos as well as other people. They work to maintain their peace of mind just as they work to establish peace and harmony in the world. The issues encountered in the 9 are fundamental to all psychological and spiritual work. Being awake versus falling asleep to our true nature, presence versus entrancement, openness versus blockage, tension versus relaxation, peace versus pain, union versus separation. This was one thing, I'm going to skip past this paragraph. One of the things that I found this really, really amazing was that the 9s demonstrate the universal temptation to ignore the disturbing aspects of life and to seek some degree of peace and comfort by kind of numbing out. So you'll see if you go on Instagram, the negative sides of the 9, they're talking about negative, like 9s are like a sloth or whatever. And that is not really what they are. That's what's happening when they're feeling like they need to disconnect because their problems are calling out the lack of peace in their life. So they respond to pain and suffering by attempting to live in a state of premature peacefulness, whether it's in a state of false spiritual attainment or in gross denial. More than any other type, 9s can demonstrate the tendency to run away from the paradoxes and tensions of life by attempting to transcend them or by seeking to find simple and painless solutions to their problems. There was one other thing that I wanted to say. We have sometimes called the 9 the crown of the Enneagram because it's at the top of the symbol and because it seems to include the whole of it. 9s can have the strengths of 8s, the sense of fun and adventure of 7s, the dutifulness of 6s, the intellectualism of 5s, the creativity of 4s, the attractiveness of 3s, the generosity of 2s, and the idealism of 1s. However, they generally do not have a sense of really inhabiting themselves, a strong sense of their own identity. So I really, really love that about the 9s because they really are hard to type because they're so multifaceted. So I totally forgot, Bethany Crawford, that you're a 9. And so if you want to jump in on the panel, feel free. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to introduce to you some 9s in our team. And just I felt like it was so helpful to hear Paige last week talk about being a 2 and just kind of in question mode. So I'll ask the question, and then what we can do is when you're ready to answer the question, for those of you who are nines who are on our panel tonight, just unmute yourself and start talking, and then I'll just do my little magic over here and spotlight your video. So our first question for nines, or let me introduce you. We have Sarah Gregory, who you all know and love from Instagram. If you don't, you need to go follow her because she's great on Instagram. She's a mom to two beautiful girls and a husband to, or a wife to the most silly person I've ever seen on the internet. You'll have to just watch. You'll see what I mean. And then we have Hannah Ackridge, who is literally a ball of fun. I love her so much. Like, I literally, when I watch her stories, she's also really good at, maybe this is a social media thing. Maybe social media is like the nine and a really good quality for nine. So Hannah does these videos that make me laugh so hard that just, it's hysterical. And then we have Bethany Haar, who is a nine from Kansas, a mom of, I believe, 4 kids. Once you get past the certain number, right, it's like I can never remember how many. Bethany, you'll have to tell me for sure, but it's not many. But she's an amazing person. She trained on the huddle a few days ago, and it was just so great, so articulate, so amazing. And then if Bethany Crawford is available, then you all know her. She's the host of the huddle, but she's also amazing. I did not ask her ahead of time because I kind of forgot that she texted she's a 9. I just looked at the poll that I did at the beginning of this series. So without further ado, my first question for the 9s is, okay, what is the hardest thing for you about being a 9 in this business model?
For me, it is the peacekeeping people pleaser, because I want to just keep everybody happy, and I find myself really being afraid of being bold and just kind of being like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever works, being afraid of rocking somebody's boat, being afraid of rejection, because again, like, I don't want people to not feel at peace or not feel like I'm at peace or that someone's not at peace with me. That's the hardest part for me.
That makes total sense, Hannah. And like, when you're saying that, I'm thinking, putting myself in your shoes, would you say it's accurate to say you almost wouldn't want to put someone on the line, like if you're at a coffee date or something and you're like, you want them to enroll and you feel like they might be ready, but you would have a hesitancy to like say, okay, do you want to do this? Because if they say no and if they feel uncomfortable, that loss of relationship.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and so when you get to that place, because Hannah, you're successful in this business, you're executive moving to silver, how have you overcome that?
I kind of feel like I'm still working on it.
Love it.
Still reminding myself I love that what you guys have talked about before, of coming from a place of validating myself and not seeking validation. And so reminding myself that they're saying no to what I'm offering, but not to me. And I also know that I am bomb.com at relationships and loving on people. So I'm reminding myself that even if this is a little awkward, I can fix it. It'll be okay.
Yeah, you trust yourself in that relationship to know that you bring so much value that you could never separate it with an ask. Ooh, that's good. I love that. Okay, any of the other 9s want to jump in and answer this? What's the hardest part about this business for you?
I would say, sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you wait your turn? Just kidding. I would say the hardest thing for me is I never want to like inconvenience someone, or I struggle also with like people caring what I have to say. I cannot tell you how many comments or messages I have like typed out and then been like, nah, they don't care, I won't send it, which is so silly. But then also just like with the ask, like with closing, I never want anybody to feel like, if they like, I don't want anybody to feel pressured to say yes. You know what I mean? So I'm like, if you want to, these oils are really great. Or if you think, but you know what I mean? So I struggle with more like what Hannah said, just being bold and being like, listen, this is what you need. So that's the biggest thing for me. It's just being like closing it after I've sold it. Cause I feel like I'm pretty good at selling, but the whole like wrapping it up.
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting. I mean, it makes sense why the two would be like basically the exact same thing. Yeah. So, oh my goodness. Okay. And Bethany, I know you like unmuted yourself at the same time. I'm going to spotlight you real quick.
Okay, I think exactly the same thing. Like, it's hard for me, it's the ask and not wanting to pressure people. And I've noticed myself, like today for the Zoom call, or like I want to do a business class, it's like zero pressure for me to do anything, but this is what's going on. Are you interested? Let me know. Also, I think it's hard for me is like being undecisive and knowing, like, seeing what everyone else is doing and thinking like, oh, I could try that, or I could try that, I could try that. And then I can't do it all. I need to pick something and focus on it and just do it. So I think that's hard, is like staying in my lane and not watching what's going on and comparing myself to other people. So.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And it seems to kind of go more with like the inner world, like keeping yourself at peace. And so I could almost see, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I could almost see it being like, oh, if I can't do it in the way that I would want to, that would cause conflict it would cause conflict for me. And I would rather like not disrupt my family's life, or I'd rather not disrupt like my agenda in order to maintain that peace. Does that sound okay? And so let's move into a little bit more of a positive. What is the easiest thing about this business for you as a 9? What do you feel like is like, oh, because I'm a 9, this part is easy?
For me, it is loving on people. I guess brag myself a little bit. I feel like really strongly, not following up like about Young Living, but following up with people, like checking in about life and like loving on them and speaking encouragement and that kind of thing. That is my strong suit. And in over 2 years of doing this, I've only ever had one person drop off. And I think that that's largely because like I am so good at talking to people about life, and like, because I think I over care too much about making sure that they know that I care about them as a person and not just as a customer. So that's definitely the easiest part, is loving on people and not even talking about Young Living all the time.
So you're telling me out of 2 years, you've only had one person go inactive? That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Okay, so tomorrow I'm doing a video. I'm claiming it right now, and it's going to be on the top, I don't know, however many things I have on my list. I haven't looked, but like top 10 things that I think people, I haven't figured out how I'm going to word this, but basically the top 10 errors I think people make. And one of them is that they focus on, like, they're a sponsor monster, but they don't know how to retain. So Hannah, oh my gosh, that's amazing. You just gave them the secret right there. It's like over love. Over love. Oh man. Okay, what do you guys think? Sarah, Bethany? Oh, you're muted.
I thought, yeah, because I was already unmuted. That makes sense. The easiest thing for me is just like, I'm already sharing about what I love. You know what I mean? I wouldn't like, okay, with the social media thing, I love me some social media because I do not love me so much the in-person thing. You're like, oh my gosh, you're so funny. Yeah, it's because I'm by myself. Like, I am recording myself by myself. So I really I feel like I'm able to be myself and like put myself out there, even though it's on the internet, like everybody can see it. I'm not aware that everybody's seeing it at that time. So I feel like it's really fun to be able to use social media in that aspect and like sell and recommend. And it doesn't have to just be oils. Like, I can be like, look at this cool bread recipe I just found. Look at this fun scripture that I like. You know, like, it's all these things that's like, it's all of me in the business. And I think that's something important to remember, is people don't care that you sell oils. People don't care that you sell whatever. They're buying it because they want you. They want to be on your team. They want to have what you have. And that's something that I feel like I'm good at, is having like that team. I don't even call my team a team most of the time. Like, they're my little oily family. And having that relationship afterwards. Like once you're in, like we're best friends forever. So just get ready for it.
And see, that is so insightful because you just said, like, we're not a team, because team, there's the potential for loss or separation. Like, and so that being the basic fear, it's like, oh no, like family, you don't have a choice. You're in, you're in. That's so good. Bethany, what are your thoughts on this one?
I guess for me, I love all of that too. It's also knowing that like there's not a right or wrong way. Like I can't necessarily mess this up if I did something that I didn't like or it didn't go perfect. You know, there's growth happening all the time. And so when I liked what Whitney said, how she heard Madison Vining say, like, I just look to see what I have in common with whoever. I'm like, oh, if they did it, I can do it. Shelby Kendall is my gold, and I look at her and I'm like, we're so similar. And if you can get to gold, I can totally get to gold, because I'm not going to be the most outgoing person, but that's fine. It takes all types.
That's awesome. And one of your goals, right?
Yes,
Yay, Whitney. Just say gold. Okay,
Bethany,
cool.
Bethany.
Yes.
Hey, I just want to, I don't know if this is absolutely true about everyone, but I'd like to know how many of the 9s that are on the panel are introverts. Okay, so yeah, me too. So I think part of it is that we are introverts, and a lot of us 9s are, and it's like we can put ourselves out there, but we find our energy, we get our refueling when we're alone. And so we like the energy of the people, but sometimes you have to push us out the door to go be with people, because it's like, and look at, they're all nodding their heads. It's like, yeah, I know it's going to be good for me. I know I need to go. This is a great thing. I'm going to learn from it, and it's going to be so great. But man, I don't want to do this. And then we do it, and we're like, we can do this. And so it's kind of like this constant little battle we have going on with ourselves. But at the same time, we know what's so valuable, and we know how it's important, and we love people more than we love the fear of staying at home. So that's part of it.
Now, do you think that's because when you go into a room, let's say you were invited to a party and you're like, I know I need to go. When you go into a room, you feel this insane pressure to analyze and understand everyone in the room and maintain the peace? Is that where the stress of the social environment comes from?
For me, it's not maintaining the peace. It's that, I don't know. We don't want to disappoint anyone. We don't want to let anyone down. And so when you go, you know, how can I serve? What can I do? What can I be doing? Or should I do anything? Should I just sit over here and not do anything? Sometimes it's like, I'm just not going to do anything because I don't know where I fit in here. So I'm just going to, okay, good. I'm glad everybody's agreeing with me here. So I am so a 9. Yes, definitely.
Oh, that's good. Okay, good to know. And so that's telling too, because imagine we're inviting a 9 to a class and they are feeling all of these feelings. They have no motivation to do the business. They have no motivation to use oils. So what is something that, you know, let's say you're invited to an oil class, you don't care because you don't care. And the host texts you 1 hour before you're having all those thoughts. What is something that the host could say that would encourage and actually inspire and get you excited to come?
For me, it would be something that like wasn't like a mass message, that I could tell that it was something like, hey, sir, I'm really excited that you're coming, like something, because I feel like they don't care if I come or not. Like, I'm just going to sit in the corner anyways. It's not a big deal even. So maybe something a little bit more like personal to me, that like, or even if like I don't know, just something that knows that like I want to come. I will hate going regardless if they send me a message or not, but.
Can I add to that? I think too, if they ask you to do something, because then we know we're needed.
And then it takes away the pressure of wondering how it's going to go. Okay, that makes total sense. So an example would be, hey, could you grab ice on the way? Okay, perfect. Yay. All right. I hope we're all taking notes. This is so helpful for someone like me who's not a 9. And I think, I don't know, maybe we all have those feelings before an event of some sort, social anxiety and whatnot, for different reasons. Okay, my next question is, my next question is, with the tendency that nines have, when they feel uninspired, unengaged, whatever, the like, I hate even saying this, but for lack of a better term, the sloth kind of tendency, how do you stay consistent and motivated in your own business during those seasons that inevitably we all have?
I think for me, it was just telling myself to do it anyways. Because I have a strong one wing, and so I want to be perfect. I want things to look pretty. I want it to go well, and it's not always going to happen. So I just tell myself to get it done and do it anyways. And then the sloth thing, the lazy thing, I had a thought the other day, and I realized it's not that we're lazy. It's we don't. If we're put in a situation where we don't know how to handle it, we tend to ignore it and hope it goes away, which it's not going to. It's just going to make your husband mad or something. And so that was a realization I had the other day. I was like, okay, it's not that I'm lazy. I don't want to deal with the things I don't want to deal with, but I've got to figure it out and do it anyways.
I said boom, because that is so perfect. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, we put up with a lot. We put up with a lot, and we will maintain the peace for a very long time. And sometimes then finally we'll explode, and we'll just like everything's going on and cry and all that stuff. But as far as going back to your question, exactly what gets us motivated, I'm almost like equal 1 and 9. It's like I don't really have a wing. I'm like 1 and 9, and so that really kind of gets me going too. But yeah, so that's probably the biggest thing for me, is that I don't want to fail. That I don't want to fail at all.
Okay, and so in that, as a support role for a 9, how best could someone who's not a 9 welcome that emotional expression before it gets to the place? How can we best facilitate a place where there is not that buildup of, the explosion never has to happen if the little thing is released on the Instant Pot, like, you know what I'm So any thoughts on that?
I feel like I'm doing all the talking now. You girls, somebody else answer.
I would say encouragement. Like, I love some good words of affirmation. Like, if I'm stepping into a role of leadership, getting a message saying, like, I see you showing up and you're doing great, or getting a message after I've trained on the huddle or something, like, you killed it, you did so good. That just wants me to keep going and keep doing the things that I think are hard.
I love that. And it makes sense. Like, I think, I don't know what Eli is. I don't know if he's a 5 or 9 or what, but I feel that when I ask specific questions, you can tell me if this is right or wrong. Like, not how are you feeling, but are you feeling frustrated? And just kind of like being okay with sitting in that space, it seems to encourage expression of those things. I don't know. Okay, we have 5 more minutes, so let's do one more question. And this is going to be kind of a dual question, so I'm going to combine the two. What are some of the qualities, my first question was, what are some of the qualities of people in your team that you really enjoy working with? But I'm going to tie that in, maybe not even in your team, maybe in your upline. Like, how could an upline be most empowering? What are kind of the traits, the personality traits where you're like, yeah, I feel really good after I have an interaction that these things are a part of? I hope that question makes sense.
Yeah, I love people who are bold and go-getters, which balances out my indecisiveness, which I also love. Frankie Jean Ellis talks about having #blue brain, like the color personalities being blue. So being a 9, being super indecisive and kind of that sloth, combined with being a blue, and blues are like super distractible. That's why I was like, I don't really know how to speak on staying focused, because that's my biggest struggle. So I appreciate people who are focused, to the point, don't waste any time, that are full of life, that are fun, that are ready to go, that sort of thing. That's what I really appreciate, people who red personalities, or your Enneagram 3s, which is our growth point. Those are the people that I appreciate being around.
Cool.
Working with.
Very insightful. Thank you.
I would say the same, kind of like anybody who's a little bit more motivated than I am is nice, because as a leader, I don't want anybody to feel like Sarah's nagging on them to host a class or to post that graphic. You know what I mean? So if someone's like going for it, I'm like, heck yeah. And then it's a lot easier for me to support them. And then having that same as like an upline, Kelly Greer is my enroller, and she is the most red, bold person that I've ever met in my life. And that's exactly what I needed, because I would have just like sat back and done nothing. But she was able to like be like, you're doing this. And I was like, okay, if you say so. And that, I mean, now here we are. So I'm really grateful for her. But that's like, it's a good balance, because I am so not that way, to have people on both ends, like me leading them and them leading me, like that it all just works together.
Oh, that's so good. I'm cracking up. That's awesome. Oh. All right. Any other thoughts?
I just like someone that inspires me. And when I'm inspired, I mean, yeah, I'm like there. So there. If I feel really inspired, I can find the motivation. So
That's really good. And so helpful. And I think the cool thing about this training and this series, and it's been such a journey through the last 7 weeks, and we've got 2 more weeks, but I think the coolest thing is just really understanding that we all come from such a different perspective. And when we don't understand that, it's like an Achilles heel. And when we do, it's like a secret superpower, because I'm talking 1/9 of the worldview. And so when I understand that, oh, this is not how they would perceive, it just can be so helpful. So I know Mariah and I were talking about that on Instagram. We were like, this has been so helpful for us. And it's one of those things that, they're going to be on YouTube and they're going to be in the units. So hopefully it will be something we can reference. However, the week after we end the Enneagram, we're diving right into November strategy. So the last week of October, the skills training is going to be November strategy, and I'm so excited about it. Pending that I'm not in birth on that day, giving birth on that day, but skills training is the one thing that I've like, we're doing this. I'm sticking with it. So, all right, friends, that got a little rambly there at the end, but I'm so excited that you were here. Hopefully you learned a lot about the 9. We will see you back here in 15 minutes for Gina Nuzzo and her team doing oils and emotions. And one last thing. There's a group that we put together on Facebook. It's a chat, and it's called Content Creators for October. So it's a very focused October group. Literally, listen, I mean, there's no pressure at all. But if you are someone who has kind of this natural, some people just have this gift on content creation, we're going to meet on Zoom right after this. Actually, I'm going to hold on just a second. We're going to end the recording.